Welcome to another episode of TUMI TV. In this episode, we want to celebrate International Women's Day with you. During the COVID-19 crisis, women have been standing at the front lines, keeping our world moving as healthcare workers, caregivers, innovators, and community organizers. Furthermore, women have proven to be some of the most exemplary and effective national leaders in combating the pandemic. However, the crisis has also turned a spotlight on the disproportionate burdens women still face. As TUMI and WomenMobilizeWomen, we actively observe these disparities when it comes to mobility. Even though decision makers and planners around the world are starting to reach a consensus on the need for a sustainable mobility transformation, issues such as accessibility, inclusion, and gender needs often seem to be forgotten or given only secondary attention. But sustainable mobility must be designed for the needs of all population groups. Why is this not yet the case, you might ask? Well, for decades, decision-making and transport planning was done almost exclusively by men. Due to a lack of data collection and personal experience, the able-bodied male perspective struggled to consider the challenges that women, children, and other vulnerable citizens face in their daily mobility. This year, the UN has declared the theme of International Women's Day as Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. We want to show you how some of the brightest female leaders in the transport sector are shaping organizations and communities, creating a fairer environment for all. In this TUMI TV episode, you will meet inspiring role models working towards more sustainable mobility, more inclusive workplaces in the transport sector, and an equitable future. Learn about their approaches, experiences, and lessons learned, and what they are asking from decision makers to achieve these goals. Larissa Zeichhardt is a great example of what leadership in a family business can look like. Together with her sister, she leads LAT, a Berlin-based firm for mobility-related services, including construction for railroad tracks and passenger safety systems for public transport. As a strong and inspiring female leader, she believes in creating a friendly and inclusive work culture while pushing forward with the latest technology developments and mobility innovations. Larissa Zeichhardt was recognized as a remarkable woman in transport by TUMI and WomenMobilizeWomen. Today, you're a successful female leader in your industry. What helped you get here, and what were some of the supporting factors that you valued along the way?
Okay, so we work in construction. We're around railroad and in mobility, but I'm getting the double out, so to say. I think when I first started 5 years ago, I took over the business with my sister from my father who passed. So I guess first I felt like I'm the only one, but I pretty quickly realized that there's a lot of us women out there and that we can build a great network and work together. What helped me in the whole process? I guess I worked for a rather large company before. So I had some experience, and it was inside production, also a more male-dominated area. It was an international business, and that helped because it didn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you just did the job. And that's kind of the takeaway I brought here too. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, and what your sex is, you just get the job done. I have to say though that in construction, there's always a number of things that are done, and especially around the railroad track, the work's very diverse. So there's work for everyone. Doesn't matter if you can lift the heavy stuff or not. We operate as a team. What I do see is happening that a lot of the bigger companies like Deutsche, Bahn are putting their foot down and they're doing so much for diversity, which helps all of us. And I mean, of course, we at LAT, we recruit women. We're not going to miss out on 50% of the talent. I'm never going to do that. But I have to say that it was harder before to recruit them because they didn't know what our sector was about. So I think the face of mobility is changing. We're becoming more diverse. And as a result, I think we're going to be much more innovative because we have all these perspectives that we need to tackle today's problems and bring solutions quickly.
Not only smaller and medium enterprises have realized that women make great leaders and should be part of successful management and decision-making. The Deutsche Bahn, the largest railway operator and infrastructure owner in Europe, recently set itself new objectives regarding gender equality and equal opportunities within the company. The proportion of women in management is to rise to 30% within the next years, and various measures are intended to contribute to equal opportunities. One of the driving forces behind the railway operator is Dr. Sigrid Evelyn Nikutta, member of the management board for freight transport. She has built an exemplary career in the transport sector and steadily faces all prejudices and challenges head-on. Before being appointed member of the management board of Deutsche Bahn, she was chairperson and chief operating officer at Germany's largest public transport company, Berliner Verkehrsbetriebe. Not only was she the first female chairperson, she also made the company profitable for the first time in 70 years. So let's head over there and see what she has to tell us. Was hat ganz persönlich bei Ihnen das Interesse am Schienengüterverkehr geweckt?
Natürlich gilt mein großes Interesse der Bahn und allem, was sich auf der Schiene bewegt. Und je mehr ich mich damit beschäftigt habe, desto klarer wurde mir, dass für den Umweltschutz eines unerlässlich ist, und zwar ein richtig guter Schienengüterverkehr. Seit über 50 Jahren reden wir darüber, dass mehr Güter auf die Schiene sollen. Was ist passiert in dieser Zeit? Eher das Gegenteil. Immer mehr Güter sind auf den Lkw gekommen. Und das ist der absolute Ansporn für mich. Wir müssen es schaffen, in Deutschland und in Europa mehr Güter auf die Schiene zu bekommen. Und endlich die Vision, die schon seit Generationen da ist, Realität werden zu lassen.
Die DB hat sich ein ganz klares Ziel gestellt. Bis 2024 30% Frauen in Führungspositionen. Welche Strategien und Maßnahmen werden dabei verfolgt, um das zum Beispiel im Recruiting oder im Personalmanagement auch umzusetzen?
30% ist ein ehrgeiziges Ziel, aber wir bei der DB sagen auch, das ist ein Zwischenziel. Denn das Ziel muss natürlich sein, 50% zu haben, Parität. Aber auf dem Weg zum Ziel braucht es Zwischenziele. So ist diese 30% ein Zwischenziel. Worauf kommt es dabei an? Wir müssen im gesamten Unternehmen eine Stimmung erzeugen, dass Frauen hier gewollt sind, dass Frauen hier die gleichen oder bessere Karrierechancen haben. Das ist ganz, ganz wichtig, dieses Grundverständnis. Dann geht es sehr konkret darum, junge Frauen für das Unternehmen zu gewinnen, ihr Interesse zu fördern. Natürlich ganz und insbesondere für technische Berufsfelder. Aber es geht auch darum, Kolleginnen, die hier innerhalb der Bahn sind, zu ermutigen, weiterzugehen, weitere Karriereschritte zu machen, den Karriereweg wirklich zu beschreiten, egal welchen Alters. Und damit werden wir dieses Ziel erreichen. Und wir schauen sehr, sehr gezielt bei jeder Besetzung, die wir machen, gibt es nicht auch eine Frau für diese Position. Denn ich glaube, es gibt sie, die Frauen für jede der Positionen.
Many of the decisions about infrastructure and planning and funding have been made by men traditionally. So we need more women advocates, we need more women politicians, and we need more women working in the technical field so they can bring this important perspective of how we create really welcoming communities for everyone. Because when women can feel safe and cycle, then everybody can.
So the transport sector is known for being a very physically challenging sector. And do you think the gender of the worker makes a difference for the quality of results or the type of work that they should be doing?
I think technology is really changing things here because things that used to be heavy lifting, we try to avoid anyways to make sure that our team stays healthy. And there's a lot of additional things that we can use. I like to think we work hand in hand with robots. I hope that will grow, but we have machines that do great jobs. We have lifting equipment that can help us work longer and stay healthier in the same profession. But I also have to say, on a construction site, there's so many little things and so many different scopes of work that you definitely don't need the physical strength at all times. It's actually the mix that matters, and the team is always the strongest if everyone brings something else to the table. So it's more about skills and using the right skills than about physical strength on its own.
You are very active in the Women in Mobility network. What were the reasons for you to join this network, and why do you think it's important for women in an industry like this to connect with each other?
So when I first started to work with LAT, I felt a little bit alone, not within the company, because we're one big family, but more when it came to attending trade shows and events. It always felt like I'm the assistant or I was asked to get a coffee, and I thought I had to change that. A second thing that came into that whole calculation was the fact that I didn't have a network. I was new to the mobility sector, and I thought I might as well combine the two. I wanted to look for women, and I definitely needed a strong network. So I started with a joke and said, oh, at the next InnoTrans, I'm having a ladies' lunch. I printed pink invites. It was very extreme, but I had a lot of fun and it helped me get through the first month. And I didn't think it would be such a success, but actually at the InnoTrans, we were run over. I think we had drinks and a little bit of snacks for maybe 50 people, and it ended up being far more than 100. And in that moment, I realized, hey, I might not be the only one that needs a network for us to connect and to kind of exchange knowledge, also, of course, knowledge about the industry, but to network and to get each other, to promote each other to better positions. So I started with the ladies' lunch, and I met girls from Cologne that started Women in Mobility more or less around the same time. And it became apparent to us very quickly, we had to work together. And so that's how Women in Mobility started, or that's how I became in charge of with a great group of women for Berlin. And they kept growing. So this whole network, they set up a number of hubs, and they are now operating in all the German-speaking countries. And we have a little bracelet that connects us all, and it says Women in Mobility. And we try to hand it on as a form of empowerment. So whenever I see a new talent joining Mobility and I notice, oh, she might still feel a little bit lost, she might not have her network yet, I pass on a bracelet and I tell her, I'm taking you to the next 5 events. So you feel like you belong and you meet people very quickly. Because let's face it, it's always easier to be introduced to someone than to stand at a table and think, who can I talk to? So kind of that good feeling, I want to pass it on.
Und bei der Frage des beruflichen Weiterkommens, wie wichtig bewerten Sie da das Thema Netzwerk, Verbindung zu anderen Kollegen, aber auch anderen Professionals in der gleichen Branche? Und welche Rolle sehen Sie dabei vielleicht auch bei männlichen Kollegen?
Also Netzwerke helfen, denn ich in meinem Berufsleben habe am meisten von Vorbildern gelernt. Und natürlich trifft man solche Vorbilder in den Netzwerken. Und irgendwann kommt der Punkt, in dem man selbst ein Vorbild ist und etwas zurückgeben kann in diesen Netzwerken. Wichtig ist, sich in verschiedenen Netzwerken zu engagieren. Reine Frauennetzwerke können helfen, aber bitte nicht nur reine Frauennetzwerke, weil Karrieren werden geschlechterübergreifend gemacht. Das ist ganz, ganz entscheidend. Und Männer spielen hier eine ganz entscheidende Rolle, denn auch Männer sind natürlich sehr, sehr wichtige Vorbilder und auch sehr wichtige Förderer für Frauenkarrieren und für Männerkarrieren. Das heißt, Vernetzung über alle Hierarchieebenen hinweg, das ist ein ultimativer Karrieretipp von mir.
What would you like to pass on to other women and men in the transport sector?
Okay, the first big lesson, and I think we're very good at learning it right now, is we need the diversity. There's no way around it. We need the different perspectives to stay innovative. So it doesn't matter whether you're man or woman or diverse. Come and work for Mobility. We all use the transport systems. Why not all work together to make them better? And making them better involves catering every need that we have in society. So what do I want to give to them? Never think that you might not be relevant. Definitely bring up your ideas, and also more importantly, bring up the problems you see and best of solutions to handle them too. So if there's one thing I want to pass on, I'd rather like to say, be brave and bring your ideas forward and actually make them happen, put them to life. It's the best feeling in the world to have an idea or a solution for something and then to see it happen.
Was würden Sie jüngeren Frauen empfehlen, denen gerade diese Selbstdarstellung im Unternehmen und vielleicht nach außen der eigenen Arbeit teilweise schwerfällt? Was würden Sie ihnen raten, um trotzdem diesen Schritt zu gehen und da auch sichtbarer zu werden?
Häufig wird gedacht, ich arbeite gut, ich bringe eine gute Leistung, das wird schon jemand sehen. Kann sein im Glücksfall, aber ich würde mich nicht darauf verlassen, dass andere auf mich aufmerksam werden. Ich würde schon versuchen, dafür zu sorgen, dass auch andere auf mich aufmerksam werden.
What does leadership mean to you, and how has your role as a leader also changed or adapted to the COVID-19 situation?
Leadership for me is a team effort, because I really believe that you have to give each talent the chance to lead in their particular area. And I'm very fortunate because I lead with my sister, but I'm also fortunate because I have a great team that leads together with me and that likes to take decisions and that likes to take the lead. I am also aware that on construction sites, and particularly in dangerous situations, it is very important to know who has the word, but we can't mix the two. You can lead in many different ways, and we can always have someone who gives the beat, so to say, but everyone can dance, right? So for me, it's about motivation. motivate everyone to bring in as much as they can, all their knowledge to dance, but also to feel the beat so that it doesn't end up in chaos, but in one direction.
Let's travel over to India to meet another visionary and inspiring female leader. Elsa Marie da Silva is the founder and CEO of the Red Dot Foundation and president of Red Dot Foundation Global, a platform that documents sexual harassment and abuse in public spaces. Apart from her unwavering ambitions and efforts to improve women's safety in public spaces all over the world, she also strongly focuses on presenting role models to young girls by doing interviews and exchange formats with contemporary female leaders.
Thank you for being here with us today, Elsa. So, from your experience, why is it so important to have women in leading positions, especially in the mobility sector and in urban development?
Today, we have male leadership in most parts of the world in many different sectors. And they are making policies that don't take into consideration the needs of many different groups of people, women being one of them. And whilst we are not a minority, in this sense, we are treated like a minority. So I feel we definitely need more women in leadership positions and a seat at the table when these policies are being made, because we need our inputs to be taken into consideration.
How can women in leading positions help to achieve more equitable cities and better mobility for women and for all people of all layers of society?
So if you are a woman in a leadership position, it is incumbent upon you and your responsibility to make more space for more women. And I find then you will have more representation in a way. That is one. Second is educate yourself, because it doesn't mean that just because you're a woman leader, you are not having a patriarchal mindset. So educate yourself and bring diversity of thought onto your team as well. I would encourage that. And the last bit is, when we plan for various groups of people, like in a city or for transport, we should invest in human-centered design. And then when you take furthermore, women invest a lot of their time and effort in domestic family care, which is unpaid work. Just because it's unpaid, it's not treated as equal to maybe a male's contribution at the workplace. But by her investing her time in that, she's enabling him to contribute at his workplace. Those connections are never made. So public infrastructure should actually take into account all these needs and should be designed with her in mind. And if you take some of these great examples like the suburb in Vienna, which was designed on feminist lines, they did take inputs from women. They did take inputs from women architects as well, and urban planners and designers. And they came up with a beautiful infrastructure that benefited all. And if it benefits women, that means it takes into account children, small children. It also takes into account people with disability and elderly people. So it's not only going to benefit women, it benefits a large section of society.
Through your work and your initiatives, you aim to increase the visibility of female leaders. In your opinion, why is it so important to highlight these women and to present female role models to young people, especially to young girls?
If you can't see her, you can't be her, right? So we are living in this world where literally a few weeks ago, we had the first vice president of the United States. And for some reason, the whole world feels we have accomplished a huge milestone. Why does it feel like that? Because, that bastion of male power has been breached. It's like everybody heaved a collective sigh of relief, like, okay, now we can do it, It shouldn't be that way. But the more women you see in such positions, the easier it is to accept them. For example, men can play a big role in this. They can take a vow not to speak on panels that don't have equal representation, or at least another woman speaker. They can gently ask the organizer, have you even invited a woman? And help them find that woman. Because often, even if a woman is not at the number 1 position, she is at the number 2 position, right? But she never gets seen. So we have to make space for that. So it is very, very important to find these women, showcase these women, train them to speak, not set them up for failure. Sometimes they do that. They don't give them enough exposure and put them right in front. So when she fails, then she fails for the whole gender, How can people help? If you are a conference organizer, make sure that you have representation on your panel. Not just of men and women, but diversity of thought, right? If you are a panelist, ask to see the guest list. Who are the rest of the panelists? Can you suggest some names so that you have representation? Don't just be the token woman, also give others a chance.
Traveling isn't the best idea right now. Everybody is obliged to not move around. But no need to despair. We will take you on a trip around the world in our free online course. Pack your bags and come with us on a journey around the world and in your head. All these cities have one thing in common. They are case studies in our online course we created for you together with the University College London. You will not only learn theoretical approaches for sustainable mobility, but will get to know best practices of cities from around the world. Subscribe here.
In a boardroom, I'm the only woman. Already, the men in the boardroom think I'm thinking like a wild woman because I'm trying to present something that is new to them also, but something for women. So definitely we need a quota for women to be in these systems, and then also encourage women to be interested about transportation because it affects them in different ways. If we are not able to move safely and freely, we will remain behind men and the world will miss a big contribution from the women. Aren't we the majority?
How can we get more women into leadership and decision-making in the transport sector? What do women need in order to take this step, and how can barriers be overcome? A great example is currently being demonstrated by the Mujeres and Movimiento, Women in Motion in Latin America. With their leadership program, they try to provide women with the necessary skills such as project management, leadership skills, and technical expertise.
Sin embargo, poco se habla de aquellas que ya están en el servicio público y que de forma protagónica o periférica están luchando todos los días por mejorar las ciudades, hacerlas justas, seguras, igualitarias, sustentables. Estas mujeres que son técnicas en espacios de administración pública, políticas, en mandos medios o altos, académicas, activistas, involucradas en procesos de cambios, de proyectos barriales, haciendo que lo privado también sea social y que todas necesitan también tejerse en redes de colaboración, creación de conocimiento y liderazgo, porque el futuro será con nosotras o no será. Y es por ellas y para ellas que nace la iniciativa Women in Motion hace 3 años en el Foro Internacional de Transporte en Alemania. Queremos tejer redes de capacitación y fortalecer el liderazgo de todas con técnica y método para incidir en las mesas de tomas de decisiones, de regulaciones y proyectos. Ellas, que con talento, tesón y pasando por violencia, rompiendo techos de cristal y sorteándolo todas las adversidades, han logrado colarse. Porque muchas siguen siendo vistas como intrusas, y no lo digo yo, lo dicen los números. En México, en el sector transporte, solo el 4% somos mujeres. Por eso, desde WIM, buscamos que esos liderazgos emergentes puedan concentrarse en sus proyectos específicos de transformación de ciudades. Y en nuestro programa de liderazgo sustentable para mujeres, conocido como Lideresas Urbanas, es el espacio para hacerlo. Lanzamos una convocatoria hace unos meses con más de 200 mujeres de toda América Latina participando. Tenemos hoy 60 lideresas de más de 18 países y la gran mayoría está en sociedad civil y gobierno representadas. En esta segunda parte que iniciamos apenas esta semana, le siguen 3 meses de trabajar en proyectos de movilidad con perspectiva de género para ciudades y países en específico, y con proyectos que además buscan resolver los problemas de las mujeres, como acosos y violencia en espacio público y transporte público, capacitación a mujeres para que sean operadoras de transporte público o cómo usar la bici para eliminar brechas. Estos proyectos al final serán candidatos a ser seleccionados por bancas multilaterales y serán parte del Banco WIM para implementarse así en toda la región. Es así como creemos que se cambia el mundo, con liderazgo, talento, colaboración, participación, sin rendirnos, de barrio a barrio, de red en red, una calle a la vez. Porque cuando las mujeres planeamos, diseñamos y ejecutamos, lo hacemos para todas y para todos. Así que únete a Women in Motion.
We've always said it, women in transport are key. That's why today, TUMI proudly presents Remarkable Women in Transport 2021.
I believe that transport should be like running water, safe, reliable, accessible, and affordable to everyone that needs it.
I believe that our mobility will truly be equitable when we consider the different needs of our diverse people that we have in our cities.
I believe in adding value to everything we learn by disseminating information.
And the role that we need to have in the next century and the next 5 years or 10 years is really pushing women to be more involved and design more products in transportation.
I believe that our cities must be pedestrian and cycle oriented.
Women, intrinsically have more empirical evidence as well as the empathy factor when it comes to understanding transport systems and movement patterns across all user groups. So in other words, I would say that women are probably better poised to take on a leadership role when it comes to urban mobility systems.
We're part of the binder, we're part of the formula, and we're part of the solution.
It's our duty to speak up for ourselves, for minorities, and for our children.
Discover the 2021 Remarkable Women in Transport brochure at WomenMobilize.org to meet these inspiring leaders. And find us on social media for more surprises in honor of International Women's Day.
Do you want to learn more about women's empowerment and the mobility sector? Check out the Women Mobilize Women website to find out about the most recent publications from practitioners and researchers from all over the world, the most recent lectures, and to be able to exchange and discuss on the latest topics.